I'm sorry. That might not have been the best time to do that, right?
Hold on. I just need to turn that all the way down.
Okay, so
So we don't have the feedback. Turn your phone down so we don't have that
okay,
feedback.
I got you. Is that right?
All right. Yes, that's better. So, hello everybody. Welcome to Sparkle Saturdays. I am Coach Kimberly, the Authenticity Awakening Coach, and on every now fourth Saturday, we are going live with some amazing Sparkle sisters. So I am going to let them introduce themselves, and then we'll get into the questions today. Our focus today is gratitude as well as overcoming codependency, because September has a few different awarenesses, right? We have suicide prevention awareness month. We have sickle cell awareness month. We have recovery awareness month. And that's speaking on like addictions and things like that. So we are focusing on gratitude and the recovery, because gratitude is a huge part of the recovery process. So I'm so excited to have our Sparkle Sisters with us today. So I'm going to start with you, Angelique, and then we'll let my sorority sister go next.
Okay, well, thank you. Thank you for having us. My name is Angelique Smalls or Angelique McNeil Smalls. I try to always throw in my maiden name. Um, and I am a serial entrepreneur and a mother of two wonderful boys. One is just a freshman at Clark Atlanta University in the dual degree program there for engineering. And I also have a 10th grader who is a STEM student and a biotech pathway student there. So, and I am married to a wonderful husband by the name of Frank Smalls.
Nice. Thank you so much for joining today. I'm
Thank you.
so excited to hear your answers to these questions and all of the gems that you're going to be dropping today.
Thank you for
Okay,
having me.
Sora, what about you?
Well, first of all, I want to say thank you so much, Sarah, for having us on here. I am so thankful to be here today, and I am so inspired by you. You are the sparkle, right? So, ever since I've met you, you have been such a beacon of inspiration for me. So, I'm so excited to be here with you today on your show and all that you do. So, Sparkle family, my name is Nettie Marie Martha Miller Lee, and I am the cousin of Angelique Smalls. I am also a military brat, so I mainly grew up in the Middle Georgia area, but have been a couple of other places. My father retired when I was very young from being in the service for 26 years. I am my mother's only daughter. I am also a qualified mental health professional for children and adults. And I am a new author. I'm very excited about that journey. My mother and I recently published a children's story. The title of that story is Miss Laura's Corner. It was done in honor of my grandmother, whose name was Laura Boyd McNeil. And it just speaks to the joy and love and community that existed in that space at the corner of Pittman and Emma in Waycross, Georgia. And I'm also an author with my cousin, Angelique Smalls, who's here with us today. We have just published a book that we're going to talk more about later, but the title of it is A Journal for a Woman of Gratitude, Establishing a Gratitude Writing Practice in 31 Days. So thank you.
Nice. So tell me where you all are from. You told me a little bit about yourselves, but Angelique, where are you from?
I'm actually from Atlanta, Georgia.
Okay.
Yes, I'm
All
from the
right. What about you, Soror?
Yes, my father was military. I came along late in his career, so I only had the opportunity to move a couple of places. So when he decided to retire, he decided to retire close to where my mother's family was. So he retired at Robbins Air Force Base, outside of Warner Robins, Georgia, and I grew up in the Warner Robins, Macon area, Central Georgia, or Middle Georgia, as we call it.
Okay. All right. So we have some Southern ladies in the house.
yes,
Yeah,
what we call Georgia
Okay.
peaches.
that's right.
So, what inspired you to write this book, A Journal for a Woman of Gratitude? And I'll start with you, Angelique. What inspired you all to do this?
Well, it kind of started with I'm already in the journaling planning industry. That's kind of where I make my money. I produce, I design, produce, and publish or sell journals and planners. And kind of had lost contact with my cousin Net Marty, and um, when we rekindled and got back together, because life happens and everything, and we hadn't seen each other in years. So we were talking every day, and we started talking about journals and planners and how we write and how we communicate and all of that stuff. And I said, hey, we need to do, because we have so much in common. Not only are we first cousins, we both are only children to our mothers. My dad has older children, but I'm my mother's only child, so I was raised alone. So we have that in common. But we would sit and talk about how we would write and how we were grateful for the things that we've gone through or the things that we have. And that's kind of where it started for me. Um, I'll let Net speak on it a little bit more about where it, started for her, but that's where it started for me.
Okay.
Yeah. First of all, my cousin is incredibly modest. She is incredibly talented. She is a visionary. She has, as she says, she's a serial entrepreneur, and she is walking in her dream. And for me, gratitude has been something that's been pretty significant at different points in my life. And I can go back to about 2011 when I was an intern at the Washington Center in Washington, D.C., a public health intern. I was in the Masters of Public Health program at the time. And it was November. We were living in a dorm. We were away from home. And I said, you know what? I'd like to do a gratitude gathering. So I connected with a good friend of mine, Reverend Kelly and Reverend Angie. They have a ministry in DC called Grow Continuum, and told them about my vision. And they pulled together and helped me identify resources and supported that vision. And we pulled together some people that I hadn't seen in many, many years. I'd lived in DC and then moved away and came back, and um, we were able to connect in this small dorm room one evening with an eclectic group of people, and we began to talk about gratitude and what it means in our lives. And it was a transformative experience for everyone who participated in the gathering. And I think for me, it helped me to understand the importance of a daily gratitude practice. Now, I will be honest, over the years, I have not always had a daily gratitude practice, not consciously, right? So there are times when you just pause, and in that moment, you're grateful for being, or grateful for being able to see a flower, or grateful to be able to share time with family and friends. But it wasn't always consistent. But it is a part of, I guess, my theme, something that I do find important. And I also can stand up and say that I participated in CODA meetings and am codependent. And I think that gratitude is key in trying to recover from that pattern of behaviors. I think it's intrinsically connected to codependency recovery. So, in my connection with, you'll hear us call each other different things. She calls me Ned, I call her Renee. But in connection with my cousin Renee, you always have these family names, right? So, when we were talking about journaling and we were talking about developing a line together under the name of our great grandmother. Our great grandmother's name is Perry Lee Bostick Boyd.
Okay.
And we have decided that that would be the name of our venture. Um, we set our intention with the purpose of honoring family. And I had just finished working on the book with my mother called Miss Laura's Corner. And Renee said, if you like writing books, well, let's do this. And let me show you a couple of different ways you can have more creative control over what you produce, right?
Mm-hmm.
So she taught me some different ways to have that kind of creative control. And in her teaching me that, we merged our ideas and we came up with this gratitude journal. Um, as a qualified mental health professional, while I was living in Richmond, Virginia, what I saw not only in working with my adult clients was also with my teens and with young kids is that gratitude is something that can be taught, it can be practiced, and it can create holistic health and wellness. So I felt like we should start there. And that's how we came up with this practice. As Renee mentioned earlier, we both like to write. I know we're in this cyber age and everything's electronic, but sometimes you just need to put pen to paper, right?
Paper, that's right.
Whether it's
Mm-hmm.
journaling, organizing your calendar, doing your to-do list, you need to put pen to paper. And Renee has a really awesome line of journals independent of Perry Lee Designs that you can find on with B Glitz. I'll let her talk more about that. But you sometimes just need to write. So in our putting our heads together, we came up with this idea of trying to help support people with creating a daily gratitude writing practice. And that is the genesis of the book. We did focus on women. As women of color, you will see women of color positively reflected in this book across the globe. We tried to make sure we had positive representations of women of color across the globe, but we also tried to have positive representation of women. Um, even though even women who are not women of color will see themselves positively reflected in this book. So that's kind of the genesis of where we started with our work.
Love it. I love it. I'm like a gratitude gathering. Like I feel like we need that right now.
Yes.
A
Yes.
gratitude gathering. That's one of my takeaways from your talk just now. And I'm gonna probably use that in the sorority while we're out here, just a gratitude gathering. Um, so the other thing that you said was creative control. That's what Angelique influenced you, um, to have more creative control. And I actually am like, that's my goal with the next books that are coming out for me, because I have published and I did supported self-publishing, and I just think I'm in a place now where I want to have more creative control, but I also want to have more financial control.
Yeah,
Yes.
absolutely.
And so that's why I'm choosing to roll out my books on my own on a
Mhm.
specific platform so that I can have more financial control and oversight. So
Hmm.
I love that you all said that more creative control. I'm adding to that more financial control. I love that.
Hmm.
The other thing that I want to say that I took away from just what you said just now is the importance of putting pen to paper. One of my friends here in Abu Dhabi, we work together. Her name is Tara. She gave me a prayer journal when I got back to Abu Dhabi from the States.
Hmm.
And I love it because there's this section that says praise. And when I think of praise, I also think of gratitude. A lot of what I write in that section is like, I'm thankful for this. I'm thankful for that. Thank you, Lord, for this.
Hmm.
So I just really, really love those statements. Let's get into this next question. Why is gratitude important? Why is gratitude important? And I'm going to start with you, Anjali. Why is gratitude important?
Okay, for me, gratitude is important because I noticed that being a stay at home mother, I found myself complaining about whether it be big things, little things, it didn't matter. The kids are running through the house, or um, I may have wanted to buy something for myself and couldn't buy it, or because my husband works for the military, um, he had to be gone for a week or so, and we were having some issues with some things going on at school. And then I realized that, hold up, I know several women and men who first want to be married, who first want to have children, who even want homes, cars, whatever it is. It didn't even have to be anything large. It could have been, something small. And I realized I was just sitting in a state of complaining all the time about everything. And I thought I was probably the most positive person that I knew. And I realized that, okay, I need to start reflecting. If I say that I'm gracious and that I'm thankful for things, I need to start showing that. So I had to change my mindset. So
Mm,
for me, gratitude is just being present. Um, since I am an only child, my children are like my safety blanket. I'm one of those parents who, sometimes you'll hear parents say, "I can't wait for school to start so they can get back to school." I'm the total opposite of that. I want my children with me all the time. And I think that has something to do with my childhood. I'm not really sure, trying to figure that out. But yeah, so for me, gratitude is just being present and being thankful for the smallest things.
and I'm going to ask you, why is that important? Why is being present important? Why is it important to be grateful for the small things?
Because we have lost so many family members. For me, I've lost both my mom and my dad. And being an only child, that was really, really hard. Now, mind you, my mother was fairly young. She was 58 and she passed from
Mm,
breast cancer. Um, but by that time, I was married and had just had my first child. And I can remember my mom saying to me before she passed, make sure you can come home and take care of your child. You know how it is to be a latchkey kid, you know how it is to be home by yourself and having to cook meals and things like that. Now that you have a partner in life, you know, take advantage of that and raise your children. Make sure you're there for all of the good things and even the bad things. Um, so for me, that's why I want to show gratitude to my children, to my husband.
mm,
I want to start speaking life into them. Um, I want to start speaking more positively over them. And though they are very good boys and that they are remarkable students, I noticed that. I was complaining about small things. Why didn't you clean your room? You know, well, yes, you should clean your room, but you shouldn't have to yell about that. So it's little things like that. And I want to be present for that because my mother, for me, I feel as if she left rather early. You know, she was, like I said, she was 58. She was a new grandmother. So my second child never even met my mom. So for me, I just want to be present. I want to celebrate everything with them. I want to be present with everything that they go through. Even with my youngest, he's really, really into girls right now. And I think I had been so busy when he was a lot younger that he didn't even want to talk to me about these girls. So I'm like, well, hey, you know, come talk to me about girls. I'm a girl, you know, let me know what's going on and everything. So yeah, you know, I'm just bonding with him over that is good for me. So,
Thank you.
mhm.
Okay, what about you, Soror? Why is gratitude important?
Um, Gratitude is the elixir of life. Um, you know, King once said that, well, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Once said that gratitude should be the attitude of Christians. But regardless of your faith walk, gratitude is one of those themes that threads through spirituality. Gratitude is peace, gratitude is grounding,
Mhm.
gratitude is healing, gratitude is resilient, gratitude is letting go,
Hmm.
Mhm.
gratitude is forgiveness, gratitude is necessary. I have a good friend named Maria who is a cancer survivor. And I had noticed that I would be around her and she would just stop in the middle of a conversation and notice beauty, like in a flower or in a passerby. But it was the simple things. And I found that as her practice of gratitude is that she would just be grateful for the little things like Angelique mentioned. And sometimes we have to pause and be present and thankful. It's easier because I am that person. It's easier to get caught up and overwhelmed and anxious and on that wheel, right?
Mhm.
And not pause and just be thankful, right? Um, I am now the primary caregiver for my mother who's 84. And she is an amazing, vivacious, wonderful 84-year-old who has also some age related diseases that have an impact on her functioning, right? So, in being a caregiver, you, one, there's a link to codependency in that too. Sometimes you can have codependent behaviors and traits while being a caregiver, but it also can get very intense at times. You know, being responsible for the well being of another person is an intense responsibility, whether you're a parent or whether you are, taking care of an aging parent, or taking care of clients or other people in your life, friends, etc. It is a very intense responsibility. So sometimes I have to just get still and be thankful. Be thankful for the opportunity to spend every day with my mother, right? That's a blessing.
That is.
As Angelique mentioned, I'm sorry, I'm under a ceiling fan, so it's causing me to be a little mucusy, I guess. But as Angelique mentioned, my father was 59 when he passed. He had heart disease and had a massive stroke. So, as Angelique mentioned, that both of her parents are passed, sometimes I feel half orphaned. So one of my, parents has passed when I was 24. That's, that's traumatic. That's something that you have to process. And sometimes I have to even be grateful in that I had an amazing father, right? He was
Mhm.
anyone who met him, he never met a stranger.
Mhm.
Everyone who met him loved him. He was genuinely a good man.
Mhm.
So I hold, even in the responsibility here as a caregiver, just how grateful I am to have my mother still,
Mhm.
just as she is,
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
wanting her McDonald's frappe every day.
Every day.
So, you know, um, so there's blessings. And sometimes I think you have to pause and find the blessings in the trials
Mm.
of life. And
Yeah.
that is something that we do speak about in the book, you know.
Mhm.
And as we were preparing for this interview, I thought about how Renee and I had probably unconsciously put many pages and writing prompts in the book that are supportive of those in recovery, whether it's codependency, um, substance use, alcoholism. Gratitude is just a key principle to help you in that process of recovery. And as someone who has participated in CODA meetings and have tried to do the 12 steps and have read Melody Batty's
Yes.
Codependent No More,
Yes.
and worked that, the language of letting go, worked that book, I can say that gratitude is central to all of that. And recovery is, sometimes in some recovery rooms, they talk about it being one day at a time. I think with codependency, it's really more one moment at a time. If there are 99 moments in a day, right, where you have the ability to engage in a codependent pattern or behavior, you might get it right 5 times, that day, 5 moments. You may have actually made choices that are healthier, that aren't centered in your codependence, right? So I
Mhm.
think it is moment by moment.
It
Mm-hmm.
is.
And
It
that's
is.
something to be grateful for.
Yes,
You know,
absolutely.
Yes.
so I'm taking away from both of you the being present, right? I
Mhm.
love that being present. That's something that took me some time to learn to do. I'm gonna be honest with
Mhm.
you. Before recovery, and when we say recovery, we're including like every sexual addiction, food
Yeah,
addiction,
that's
divorce
right.
recovery, grief
There you go.
recovery, drug
Absolutely.
addiction,
Mhm.
alcoholism,
Right.
whatever it is,
Mhm.
recovery. We're
Mhm.
including all of that. You know, so before recovery, I really had a problem being in the present. Like I had a problem staying in the present,
Okay.
really like fully functioning in the present. My mind was
Yes.
either what I got to do when I get home from work, or what
Yes.
I have to do next week, or what I got to do an hour from now, or what happened yesterday, or
Yes.
what happened to me when I was a kid, or
Right.
you know what I
Right.
mean? So
Absolutely.
like
Absolutely.
being in the present
Mhm.
is that's a powerful statement, really powerful. And what I learned through my teachings is that God works in the present. He says, I am
That's
that
right.
I am.
That's right.
Is
That's right.
present, like, and that's so important. I love that your friend practiced the pause.
Mm-hmm.
She took
Mm-hmm.
the time to notice the beauty around her and appreciate the beauty around her. How many
Mhm.
times have we been driving to work and didn't even realize we were already there, like we were
Already
there.
there.
Like
Mhm.
all the stuff that we passed and didn't really notice. Like
Mhm.
when I got the opportunity to sit in the driver's seat, I was like, oh wow, I didn't even know that was there. And I've traveled
Mhm.
that route every day.
Every day. Yep.
Absolutely.
So it's really powerful to take the time to be present.
Right.
And I too have lost both of my parents. They died 18 months apart.
Oh, wow.
And they both died wanting to do things. Like my
Mhm.
mom died wanting to start a business. She always wanted to open a food truck business.
Mhm.
My father died wanting to go to South Africa. You know, so some of the things that they died wanting to do,
Mhm.
I'm going to
You're
do in
doing it.
homage to them.
Yeah.
So I love that
Amen.
you are honoring your grandmother through the writing of this book and your company name. And, so I love that. I love that because you're showing gratitude to them,
Right.
Exactly.
and
Exactly.
I just love it.
Thank you.
So I want to talk a little bit more about your journey with codependency, soror. And if you have, Angelique, if you have something to add to this, it's fine. But I know that she shared with me her journey, a little bit about that. So tell me about your journey with codependency, and then I'll share a little bit about about my journey with it.
Okay.
Okay. Well, as I mentioned earlier, I lived in DC for a while, and I had some just really amazing friends who were in those rooms, right? And I think sometimes when people are doing those 12-step programs and they're actively in the process of working those steps and actively in the process of healing, they can impart knowledge to you. So
Mhm.
I didn't know anything about 12 steps. And I had friends who introduced me to the program. And I was introduced to CODA um, while I was attending Unity of Washington D.C. They had a CODA program. I would go and I would sit in the meetings, and sometimes I would just listen. Although I like to talk, as y'all can tell, um, I would just listen. I wouldn't share initially, and eventually I started sharing. I started building, healthy relationships with people in that room, and I started to try to work on myself. Now, do I get it right every day? I don't. I don't get it right most days, right? So as I was preparing for this discussion we were having, I started thinking about how some of my codependency patterns are like present, and I wasn't even paying attention to it because I hadn't been doing the work recently, right? So, it is an interesting. I think it's an interesting recovery process, and as I mentioned, I think it is something that happens in moment by moment, moment by moment. But there are some things, there's some resources, there are tools, just like we mentioned, Melody, Batty's books. Those are the codependent Bibles, right?
Yes.
And also there are other resources out there that I've found. One that I feel that links gratitude and codependency. This is on, I think it's called um Conference Call. That's what it is. It's an app called Conference Call. I'm almost certain that's what it's called. If I'm wrong, somebody please type and say no, that's not what it is. But I believe it's called Conference Call. I have it on my phone, and you have like many different rooms. There's some people who talk about news. There's some people who talk about reselling. There's some people who talk about gratitude. And on that platform, there's a huge daily gratitude movement that is absolutely profound. They have moderators. They're present several times a day. People come in, they talk about what they're grateful for. um, and I would get up in the morning and I be preparing breakfast or cleaning the kitchen, and I would just turn it on, and it became
Hmm.
like my morning time with myself, right?
Right.
So I, I would like to recommend that to those who are interested in daily gratitude. Whether if you're not somebody who likes to write, or if you're somebody who likes to write and likes to listen, that's a really good
Hmm.
platform. It's a really good program. It's consistent. You can pipe in anytime, pretty much, and they have a room that's open to talk about gratitude. Another thing, I think another resource that's helpful is meditation. Trying
Mhm.
to carve out time in your day for self-care, because sometimes codependents, we don't put our self-care first, right? We put other people first. Other people are our priority.
That's
Their
it.
care and well-being is our priority. We're almost feel guilty not almost, we do feel
You
guilty
feel guilty.
when we
Yes.
when we take that power back and say, I need to care for myself, I need to put my oxygen mask on, right? So
Exactly.
like one of the pages in the gratitude book talks about sharing a time when you said no instead of saying yes, right? Instead of just
Mm-hmm.
being in that pattern of being a martyr, or that self-sacrifice, those things you don't have to do, right? They're not
Mm-hmm.
healthy for us, but they're behaviors and patterns that we've picked up along the way, usually because they saved us at some point, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, through our childhood trauma or our adult trauma, that
Mhm.
self-sacrifice we felt was a way to save ourselves, right? Or that
Mhm.
control was a way to save ourselves, or that anger was a way to, save ourselves.
Mhm.
So those codependency patterns, they come up. But when you are a caregiver, sometimes you have to stop and you just have to say, hey, I have nothing else to pour. I have to
Right.
pour back into myself.
Mhm.
And being still with yourself in meditation, whether you use a formal, a spiritual meditative path, like Buddhism, or if you just take or Christian um, meditation path, or if you just sit in silence. Some people choose to use TM. Some people
Mhm.
take a verse out of the Bible and they sit still with that.
Mhm.
Some people chant. But taking that time to be with self is probably the best thing for yourself and for the people that you care for, because we constantly pour, and at some point we're not giving anything of benefit, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because we have nothing of benefit
Right.
to give, right? So
Absolutely.
taking that time, I think that meditation and prayer um, is an excellent resource in the path of recovery, on a path of daily gratitude, just being still.
Just being sick.
Mm-hmm. And for those who don't know, when we say CODA, that's
Right.
the acronym we use for Codependence Anonymous.
Mhm.
And I attended that. I attended,
Mhm.
that's secular, right? So I
Right, right,
attended
right,
that, but I
Mhm.
also attended a Christian recovery when I was attending meetings.
right.
Here, they don't have a meeting here in Abu Dhabi. There actually is one in Dubai, but
Okay.
I still practice the principles. I still
Mhm.
read in the language of letting go every morning.
Yeah,
Mhm.
it's great.
And I think I need to always keep myself that in the forefront of my mind, because
Mhm.
I can act into codependent behaviors very easily if I don't. So for me, I believe codependency started at age 4.
Okay.
And the reason why I say I think it started then is because my mother made an attempt at suicide.
Mm.
And I remember the paramedics coming in to our apartment to wheel her out on the gurney. And in my 4-year-old little mind, I said, I'm going to take care of my mama.
Mm. Mm.
Yep, 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 yep,
Okay.
yep,
So
yep, yep.
I believe that's where it
Yes,
started.
yes,
Okay.
Mhm.
yes,
It
yes.
definitely continued because they say most codependents have either addictive parent or an addictive spouse,
Mhm.
or someone close to them has some issue with some type of addiction.
Okay.
And my mother was a functional alcoholic. So I watched her become that.
Mhm.
So I would say probably around age 7 or 8 is when her drinking like started to get a little bit heavier. But
Mhm.
by the time I was 13, she was a blackout drinker. So
Mm.
she would go to work. She never missed work. She would go to work. When she came home, she would drink until she blacked out.
Mm.
So for me, I know that's where like all of it started and where it all continued and it got worse. So that's
Mm.
part of it. And then not only that, I was I was raped and I was molested at age 4. I was molested at age 4. I was raped at age 11. So all of that trauma compacted together
Mhm.
caused the codependent behaviors for me. But I know like at 4 is like, that's kind of where it started. Cause how am I going to take care of my mama? And I'm a little kid, you know, but
Exactly.
I tried. I thought
Of
I,
course.
I
Of
thought
course.
I could do it. I
We
don't
all,
know
yeah.
why, but
Yeah.
you know, so like all of those things cause the codependent behaviors.
Mhm.
And another thing that we do say in recovery is that inside of every addict is a codependent,
That's right.
right?
Mhm.
Because the addiction is really the symptom of something else,
Yes.
right?
Mhm.
So until you get to the root of whatever that something else is, the
Mhm.
addiction helps
Mhm.
comfort that or ease that or
Mhm.
relieve that, right?
Right.
So for me, I like have decided for me that I'm going to educate my community, the Black community, more
Mhm.
about codependency. Because a lot of times that's what we're dealing with, but we don't know
Exactly.
because we're
But we don't
inside.
talk about codependency. We
We
talk
don't talk
about
about
all
it.
those
I didn't
other
even know what it
things, right?
was.
We don't talk about codependency, but we talk about all those
Mm-mm.
other things, right?
Yeah.
And it is the core.
Hmm.
Right, right.
It is. It
Yes.
is.
Mhm.
The
Well,
funny thing about it is I never knew what codependency was until my husband,
Yeah,
because
I
I'm
love
happily
that.
divorced,
I love
when my
that.
husband and I went to counseling with my pastor, and he
mhm.
said, "It sounds like both of you are codependent," is what he said. And I was like, I don't think he knows what he's talking about. I think he need to just stick to the word. And but I bought the book, which was the book you mentioned earlier, Codependent No More, because that's what he suggested I read. So I did buy it and I did plan to read it, but it infuriated me because I saw myself in it.
Mhm.
Mm.
So I threw it down, I kicked it under the nightstand, and I didn't pick it up again until a year later.
Oh wow.
But that was my first time hearing about codependency from my pastor. Angelique, you were about to say something?
I was. I know when we were preparing to come on, Net and I had a discussion about that, and I said, "Well, I don't really, I don't think I'm codependent. I don't think I have any of those type of traits." And I thought about it, and she said, right on cue, she said, "But you're a perfectionist,"
Mm,
and she's right. I am. Everything that I do, um, not just everything that I do, um, even when it comes to dressing, like I feel like everything has to be in place. Everything has to be this way or that way. Um, but also when it comes to business, and I know it has a lot to do with being a black woman in an industry where we've just literally just gotten into, right? Black women have just gotten into the journaling and planning industry, right? I'll say within the past maybe 5 years.
Mhm.
And I feel like everything has to be right when I'm creating a journal. Um, if it's just for one person, it will take me the longest to finish it because I want it to be perfect.
mm.
And she's right. She when she said that, I'm like, oh, yeah, you're right. I do. I want it all to be perfect. So that is a form of codependency. So you're right. You're right.
Yeah, I went through that too. So tell me, as a mom of a toddler, why did I buy all white furniture?
Oh well, that's a
Why
whole
did
nother
I do that?
discussion. I was
And
raised around white
was
furniture, and I did
determined
the
to
same
keep it clean.
exactly.
Mhm.
So I was that too. I dealt with perfectionism too.
Mhm. Yeah.
So
I
let
have
me ask
to.
you.
I deal with it in a strange kind of
Mhm.
way. It 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 keeps me from moving forward easily. So if I
Yes.
have a project, I get all this anxiety around it. And it takes me the hardest time to just get it started. Now, when
Mhm.
I get it started and I get it done, it's done well. I'll give you an
Mm-hmm.
example. I used to write case notes. It would take me forever to get my case notes done,
Mm-hmm.
but the case notes would be done with detail and they would be, long and you didn't have any questions about what took place during that, billing site, those billable hours, but I couldn't get started. So I deal with it as well, but I think it's more connected to my anxiety. Maybe it's kind of a performance anxiety thing. I don't know. I
Mhm.
don't know. We'll just
Mm-hmm.
add it to the soup of all of the things I deal with on a daily basis.
Add it
Exactly.
to the soup.
Mhm.
That we'll add to the soup of the things I need to
Add
recover
it to the
from.
soup. So, how did you recover? Because we kind of talked about causes,
Hmm.
our causes of codependency, but how did you recover?
I haven't.
I was gonna say I'm looking at Ned and I'm
You
like,
said
well,
I haven't.
I
I
haven't,
haven't.
haven't.
I think, like codependency is vague, right? It's not vague. It's kind of an abstract type of thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
So like if you're in NA or you're in AA, you can say I haven't had a drink
Right.
for this many days.
Right.
Mhm.
Or you can say I haven't used substances for this many days, or I am 2 years clean, or this is my anniversary. And I
Mhm.
think for codependency, it's so much more difficult, right? To be that concrete, right? So
Right.
I don't know if I would I don't know if I'd say now in my life or if I would ever say that I've recovered, but I think that I have an awareness, right?
Exactly.
Got you.
And
Yeah.
I know of tools that I can use
Mhm.
to work on those pattern behaviors that are unhealthy for me in
Mm-hmm.
relationships with other people, because that's where it shows itself. It shows itself in our relationships we
For
have
sure.
with family, we have with friends, we have with our significant others.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I think that's a daily work. Some days I just I don't of the 99, I don't get any of those opportunities right, right? And some days I get it right once and I will celebrate that. Like, wow, I caught
Right.
myself, right? I caught myself and I
Mhm.
made a healthier
Right.
choice. So I
Mhm.
don't know that I can say that I've recovered. I think that I have to be aware and I
Mhm.
have to try to do the work. And
Exactly.
sometimes I don't have the awareness, and sometimes I'm not actively doing the work. And
Mhm.
when I'm not, that's when I'm most unhealthy.
Mhm.
I
Mhm.
understand.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I can say that I agree with you. I think that I have overcome the worst behaviors
Yes, I
when
agree
I
with you
was
on
in the
that.
depths
Mhm,
of codependency,
mhm.
like
Right,
prior to recovery.
right.
And those look like being afraid of conflict, not
Mhm.
speaking up for myself,
Right,
not putting myself first.
Mhm.
right.
Um, those I think are the big ones. People pleasing, using people to
Mhm,
fill voids.
mhm.
Mhm.
Yeah,
So
that's
those were
right.
my big ones, right?
Right.
Mhm.
And those ones are the ones that I have overcome. And I can say I've recovered from those.
And
But
that's
the
a healthy way to
smaller
say
ones,
that.
like
Yeah,
in my mind, like, oh my gosh, they must not like me because they didn't do blah, 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 blah.
yeah. There you
So
go.
I'll
Mhm.
have to catch myself and say, guess
Mhm.
what? That's none of your business
That's none of your
whether they
business.
like you or not.
Mm-mm.
Yeah,
You
that
know what I mean? So
yeah.
yes, I
I get that
totally
one.
agree
That's
with
one
you.
of mine too. That's one of
Mhm.
mine too.
That's
I've had to work
definitely
on
one
it.
of
I think
mine.
I've actually I'm further along in the process of that one than maybe I am in some of the other ones, right? Because that was a big
Mhm.
deal for me at one point.
Yeah.
Not so much anymore, right?
Hmm.
Mhm.
So I'm just gonna wear my goddess. I think one of your previous interviews, there was a young lady, I think her name was Shamira,
Uh-huh.
maybe.
I
And
saw her. Yes.
oh, okay. And she said, you just have to wear your goddess, right? You have to wear it. And I love
Yes.
the way she said that. You have to just you have to be your goddess. You have to know it. You have to own it. You have to walk in it. You have to be present with it. And, and I think that that is pulls you away from that worry about, well, somebody doesn't like me, or somebody doesn't think I'm good enough at this, or
Mhm.
I'm not good enough at this, or what, I'm not enough,
Right.
right? I'm not enough.
Exactly.
That's
That's
the
what that all
ultimate.
speaks to. I'm not
That's the
enough.
ultimate
Exactly.
foundation of that. Is like I'm not enough.
Hmm.
And
Mhm.
you know, you, I had a friend who used to say he would stand up in the morning every day and say, "I'm one good-looking fellow," and I I think that some of those things are, they're cliches or whatever, but sometimes you do just have to stand in it and say, I'm
Yeah.
enough. I'm enough.
Right.
Go.
Just
Mhm.
as I am, with
Just
Mhm.
all of my stuff, with my past mistakes, with my confusion. I am enough.
mm-hmm.
And
Yes.
I'm a child of God. And I have purpose. And I'm going to walk in that purpose. Right.
Exactly.
Yes.
Exactly. Um, I know Ned and I have talked about the imposter syndrome, you know,
Mhm.
Mhm.
and again, harkening back to just what I do for a living. Um, I actually had someone um, that that wanted to do some business with me, and she wanted me to. Well, I thought one way, and she thought another, and she said, "Well, I want you to just show me how to do X, Y, and Z, whatever it was." And I'm like, well, I can't really show anybody how to do that. Well, she literally stopped talking to me. And of course, I internalized that. Like, I was like, oh my God. She didn't like me. Why did she like me? Yada yada yada. And then started talking to my husband about it. And his whole thing is, why would you carry that burden? Um, and then I talked to my cousin Ned about it, and she was like, hold up. First, you're not an imposter. And that's on her. Let that be her thing. And
Mhm.
so I totally agree with Ned with that. And I was speaking about imposter syndrome because because I'm such a perfectionist, and I guess I don't want to let, what is the thing they used to say when we were growing up? Don't let your slip show. I didn't want my
Yeah.
I didn't want my slip to
Yeah.
show. So
Yeah.
I'm
Mhm.
thinking I gotta make sure it's perfect. You know what I'm saying? So that someone will not say, I told you she wasn't.
Right.
So I think that for me is that's something that I've had to work on now and I've had people to do me like that lately where, we were, I wouldn't call friend, but an associate. And all of a sudden, I'm like, oh, I'm calling and they won't call back, and or whatever it is. And I'm like, you know what? That's on them. I'm not sure of what the problem is, because as adults, we have to speak up. We have to talk. We have to let people know what's going on. And I've had to learn how to, you know what? That's not my problem. That's not my
Right.
yeah.
It's not your stuff to
Yep.
It's not
carry.
my stuff.
Let it go. That's right. Let
I'm
it
not
go.
gonna add that to
And
my CV.
also, it is none of your business.
It's
Mhm.
none
Right.
of my business.
Mhm.
Exactly.
So, Anjali, what advice would you give women regarding gratitude?
Outside of living in the moment, outside of being present with your significant other, whoever that may be, your children, um, I would say that gratitude is loving yourself,
Mm.
literally. Love to do that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You know, we've talked about, being caregivers. We've
Mm-hmm.
talked about, um, just tuning things out and turning things off. Sometimes we have to just say it out loud. I love me. I'm going to put myself first,
Yeah.
and everything else will be secondary. And that can even be with your children. That can even
Mm-hmm.
be with your husband,
Yes, yes.
you
Mm-hmm.
know. So for me, that's gratitude. Um, Gratitude is being able to speak up for myself, be present, and not holding, um, not carrying the burden of others. So
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
that for me, that's gratitude for
Okay.
me.
What advice would you give, Sora, to women regarding gratitude?
Um, Practice it every day. Um, count it all joy.
Mhm,
Wherever you are, whatever you have experienced, whatever your anxiety is or your concern,
mhm,
just in the moment, just count it all joy.
mhm,
It will all be for your good. Now, I say that, but I also am very clear that we have all experienced trauma, right?
Mm-hmm.
And there's some things that we have experienced that are horrific.
mhm,
Right.
And and I don't know how you can easily say that to those things.
mhm,
So I just create a caveat to explain I do understand trauma. And I know that we've all experienced trauma.
mhm,
But in general, try to count it all joy and know that it will all be for your good.
mhm,
At some point, you'll have a different perspective about it. At some point, you'll see it differently. At some point, it will feel differently in your body.
mhm,
So, yeah, count it all joy. And
Yeah.
definitely, try to connect with the daily gratitude movement on the, I think it's the conference call app. Um, and try to find simple moments of joy,
mhm,
right? Find simple moments of joy in every day. Um, and even though our book focuses on writing, and that's my love, but I do encourage people to try to write. Like, the way the book is structured, this is a picture of the book, the cover, that my amazing, talented cousin created, you
It's
know.
beautiful.
So, when she says she's a imposter, she's not an imposter. You are so worthy. You are so deserving. And you are so talented. And this is an example of that talent. But in the book, there are writing prompts that give you an opportunity to just kind of be still with yourself around forgiveness, around
mhm,
mindfulness,
mhm,
around
Can
the
you read one
power
of
of.
them? Can you read one of the prompts for us?
Yeah, yeah. I'll just this is one that's in the book. It's day 8, and it says we as women are taught to do. We are taught to do as if we are super women. We are not super women. We are phenomenal women. That myth can foster the giving of our best selves to others and a lack of care for ourselves. So,
Mm.
the writing prompt for that day is share about a time when you were grateful you said no and pause to take care of yourself.
I love it.
And on each one of our prompts, you have you in the book you get a picture and then like the writing prompt, and you get something to help you kind of focus on a particular thought for that day.
mhm.
Nice.
Hmm.
I love that.
Do the work. Yep.
You know, one of I would the advice I would give someone regarding gratitude is use affirmations.
Right.
Because affirmations help change a person's mindset.
Right.
So I
Mhm,
would say definitely use affirmations Um, so, what do you all want to achieve next? And I'll start with you, Angelique. What do you want to achieve next?
What I'd like to achieve is okay. Well, first, Ned and I are going to be doing retreats. Obviously, I think she may have mentioned that in the beginning. Um, but I want to start connecting with people that are, um, well, we're talking about gratitude. So I want to start connecting with people that are grateful, just grateful to be. Um, I want to build with other Black women. That's one thing that has always been on my mind. Um, I'm in several groups on social media. I think most of us are, when you think about it, I'm in several groups. But I'm watching um, people that are about tearing each other down, and that's just not something I want to be a part of. So
Mhm.
that's what I want to do. I want to build with other Black women, and I want to be around more positive business women. Um, and I want to do more retreats.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, thank
Mhm.
you. What about you, Sora? What do you want to achieve next?
I just want to be a vessel. I want to be open. I want to be open to spirit. I want to listen to the small voice that's inside that I miss sometimes. That's the intuition, or the one who says, write a gratitude journal, right? I want to listen to that voice. I want to be present. I want to be grateful. Um, that's what I want next. I want to publish, and I want to help other people publish. And I'm not going to go into it too much, Sarah, but I remember that dream I had several years ago when I first met you. And I sent you that messenger note saying, "I know you think I'm crazy, but I had this dream about you, and you were writing a book, and you were on a book tour." And that was like, I don't know, probably 6 years ago, something like that.
And she told me
And
about that.
now you have written a children's book. I have followed in your footsteps and written a children's book, and now doing the self-help book like you had talked about doing it with my cousin. So I want to just stay present with, you know, listening to spirit and allowing God to order my steps and to walk in that. I have been still enough to realize that writing is a theme. I've liked writing since I was a little bitty girl.
Yes.
Our auntie used to have a poem I wrote, like I think when I was 6 years old, up in her on her wall at her house. And when I came home to visit her from graduate school, it was still there. It was yellowed, and it had that big print writing, you have in the first grade, but it was still there, and it was a reminder of that theme, and that I need to walk in that, like
Mhm.
figure
Mhm.
out what that's supposed to
What
look
that
like,
is exactly.
right? Um, so yeah, that's kind of what I want next.
Nice. Thank you. So, how can people keep up with you and where can they purchase the journal?
I'll let
Okay.
you go with that.
Okay, you want me to start? Okay, so you can purchase our journal on one of our websites. The website is www.creative, CREATIVE, inner, INNER, child, CHILD.com. That's www.creativeinnerchild.com. You can also contact us on Facebook. My Facebook page is under Marty Miller, Marti, and Miller. We also have a Creative Inner Child Facebook page, or a fan page, and you can contact us through that. You can also reach out to us on Instagram. We have a Perry Lee Designs. That's PERRILEEDESIGNS.
GN.
ENS, GNS, on our on IG, and then also Creative Inner Child on IG. Um, we do not have a presence on. We don't have a Perry Lee presence on TikTok. I do have a
Yeah.
personal page on TikTok. Um,
You say yeah.
Angelique has a
Exactly.
personal page on TikTok, but we're going to get that together, and hopefully you'll see us on TikTok soon under Perry Lee Designs. Um, Also, you can reach Angelique, and I'm going to turn it over to her so you can get her websites for her ventures and her Facebook page.
Okay.
Okay.
Um, well, we're not on Facebook yet, but I'll just give you the one website, which is beglitz um, .com. I'm sorry, I'm kind of stumbling because I'm trying to think of where everything.
Could you repeat it?
Sure. So it's BGLITZPAPIERE.com. And be patient with us because we are actually adding the book to um, all of the websites as well as all of the social media
Okay.
pages, trying to get everything up and going.
Okay.
Also,
And what I'm
we
gonna ask you all to do, send them
mhm,
to me after we end the live, and
okay,
then I can put all of them in the show notes. So when people
okay,
see this again,
okay,
they'll have the information.
okay. And we're adding to the gratitude line, so it won't just be journals and planners. We're gonna have apparel as well.
Okay.
And I think we're going to add some other things in it. We're talking through a lot of it right now.
And greeting cards.
Nice.
And greeting
We have a
cards.
line of greeting cards. And also, I wanted to just say that Renee has a series of like physical fitness planners, health planners, wedding planners for those that are about to, do those nuptials. Uh, Definitely check out B Glitz. Her products are par excellent,
Oh, thank
par
you.
excellent.
See,
So
I never
Nice.
talk about
that's,
myself, so when
yeah.
she talks about me, I blush.
Well, you all can
And,
send all of that to me so we can add that to the show notes,
mhm.
and
Okay.
people who want to purchase can go there to purchase.
Okay.
I just want to thank both of you all for joining me on Sparkle Saturdays, kicking off. I guess I could say this is like the new season. I don't know what to say. I've been doing these since January.
Okay.
Um, and I've only missed one, and that was really because of travel. So I'm just excited to uplift and empower other women. And I hope that women who or whoever watched the show today gleaned some things from our show today. So thank you so much for joining me on Sparkle Saturdays. And you
Thank
all
you.
enjoy the rest of your day. And then I'm about to go to sleep because it's after 11 here.
Oh my God. Okay.
Wow.
Well, thank you so
Well,
much for
thank you so
having
much,
us.
Kim. Thank you, Sarah.
You're
It
And
was
keep
super nice
doing
welcome.
meeting
what
you.
you're doing. You are a constant inspiration. Just keep walking in your purpose.
Thank you.
Oh,
Thank you.
thank you.
All right.
Bye. I will see
Bye
you all
bye.
soon.
All
Thank you,
right.
everyone.
Thank you so much. Bye bye.